A teacher. You're going to be just a teacher. My mother-in-law's voice cut through the Thanksgiving dinner like a knife. I sat there, clutching my acceptance letter to the master's program in special education, watching as Patricia Morton's face contorted with disgust. My name is Emma Sullivan, and at 26, I thought sharing my career news at Thanksgiving dinner would bring joy to my new family. Instead, I sat there, feeling my world shrink under my mother-in-law's cruel scrutiny. "Mom," my husband David warned, placing his hand over mine. But Patricia wasn't finished. "I always knew you weren't ambitious enough for my David," she continued, waving her wine glass dramatically. "A teacher, babysitting other people's children all day, that's hardly a real career." I felt my cheeks burn. 6 months of marriage, and Patricia had made it her mission to undermine every decision I made. But this was different. This was my calling, my passion, something I'd worked towards since watching my younger brother thrive in his special education program years ago. Special education is much more than babysitting. I started, trying to keep my voice steady. These children need. What these children need, Patricia interrupted, are real professionals. Doctors, therapists, not someone who couldn't aim higher than teaching finger painting. David stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "That's enough, Mom. Emma's work is important." "Important?" Patricia laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "What's important is that my son married beneath him. A Morton should be with someone accomplished, someone worthy of our family name, not some worthless teacher." Whoa. I didn't hear the rest. I was already walking out, my vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. Not in front of her, never in front of her. David found me in our car, staring at the steering wheel. "Baby, I'm so sorry," he whispered, sliding into the passenger seat. She's old-fashioned. She doesn't understand." "She doesn't want to understand," I corrected him, finally letting the tears fall. "To her, I'll never be good enough." That night marked the last holiday we spent at Patricia's house. David supported my decision to distance ourselves, though I knew it hurt him. We built our life together, and I threw myself into my studies, graduating with honors and landing a position at Riverside Elementary's special education department. Years passed, and I found my purpose in my classroom. Every child who learned to read, every small victory, every breakthrough moment, they all proved Patricia wrong. I wasn't just teaching, I was changing lives, one student at a time. Then came the day that changed everything. I was reviewing IEPs in my classroom when there was a knock at my door. Looking up, I saw Patricia standing there, but not the Patricia I remembered. This woman looked older, deflated, holding the hand of a small girl with golden curls and worried eyes. "Mrs. Sullivan." Patricia's voice was different too, lacking its usual sharp edge. She didn't seem to recognize me, probably because she never bothered to visit our home or look at recent family photos. "Yes," I answered, keeping my voice professional despite my racing heart. "I'm Patricia Morton. This is my granddaughter, Lily. We have an appointment to discuss her evaluation results." The irony wasn't lost on me. Patricia Morton, standing in the classroom of the worthless teacher she dismissed so cruelly, seeking help for her precious granddaughter. I looked at Lily, who was clutching a worn stuffed rabbit and avoiding eye contact. Classic signs I'd learned to recognize over my years of teaching. "Of course," I said, gesturing to the chairs in front of my desk. "Please sit down." Patricia helped Lily into a chair, then settled beside her, smoothing her expensive skirt nervously. "The school recommended your program. They said you're the best in the district for children with learning differences." I picked up Lily's file, though I'd memorized it days ago. "Lily has been struggling with reading and social interaction," I stated, watching Patricia's face carefully. "The evaluation suggests she would benefit from our specialized program." "Yes," Patricia whispered, gripping her handbag tightly. "Her mother, my daughter Sarah, she's devastated. We've tried everything. Private tutors, expensive learning programs. Nothing seems to help." I turned my attention to Lily, who was making her rabbit dance on the desk. "Hi, Lily. Would you like to see our reading corner while I talk to your grandmother?" Lily looked up briefly, then back at her rabbit. "Does it have soft things?" "The softest," I assured her, "and some very friendly stuffed animals who love to read." After settling Lily in the reading nook, I turned back to Patricia. "Mrs. Morton, our program isn't about expensive solutions or quick fixes. It's about understanding each child's unique needs and creating an environment where they can thrive. Patricia nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. They say you work miracles here, that you understand these children in a way other teachers don't. The compliment she'd never meant to give me almost made me smile. Every child has potential, I said, echoing the words I'd tried to tell her at that Thanksgiving dinner so long ago. They just need someone who believes in them and knows how to help them shine. How? Patricia cleared her throat. How soon could she start? I pulled out the enrollment forms already prepared. We can begin next week, if you'd like. I have an opening in my morning group. Your group? Patricia looked up sharply, finally really looking at me. I saw the moment recognition dawned in her eyes, washed as the color drained from her face. Emma? You're Mrs. Sullivan. Hello, Patricia, I said quietly. It's been a while. She sat there, mouth opening and closing. All her previous arrogance evaporated. In its place was something I'd never seen before: desperation and shame. She started, then stopped, looking over at Lily, who was contentedly arranging stuffed animals in the reading corner. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, I replied, pushing the enrollment forms toward her. This isn't about us. It's about Lily. Patricia's hands trembled as she picked up the pen. Does David know? About Lily? No, I said. Student privacy is important in our program. But if you'd like to tell him, that's your choice. She signed the forms, then looked up at me with tears in her eyes. The worthless teacher, she whispered. That's what I called you. And now you're the only one who might be able to help my granddaughter. I stood up, gathering the forms. The past is the past, Patricia. What matters now is giving Lily the support she needs to succeed. As they left my classroom that day, I watched Patricia holding Lily's hand, her shoulders hunched with the weight of her previous judgments. The worthless teacher she dismissed so easily was now her granddaughter's greatest hope. And this was just the beginning. The first day Lily arrived in my classroom, Patricia hovered by the door, her designer handbag clutched tightly against her chest. Gone was the imperious woman who'd belittled my career choice. In her place stood a grandmother watching her precious granddaughter with anxious eyes. She likes routine, Patricia whispered, as if sharing state secrets. And her rabbit, Mr. Hoppy, he helps her feel safe. Mr. Hoppy is welcome in our classroom, I assured her, watching Lily explore our sensory corner. We understand the importance of comfort objects. Patricia lingered, her eyes darting between Lily and me. I could see the question she wanted to ask, the apology she couldn't quite form. Instead, she just nodded and reluctantly left, looking back 3 times before finally walking away. Over the next few weeks, I watched Lily bloom in our classroom environment. While other teachers might have seen a struggling student, I saw a bright mind that simply processed information differently. She had an extraordinary memory for patterns and could recite entire conversations from days ago, even if reading simple words was still a challenge. One morning, during our shared reading time, I noticed Lily particularly engaged with a story about a family of rabbits. Her eyes lit up as she pointed to different words, trying to sound them out. It was the most interaction she'd shown with text since joining our class. That afternoon, I created a personalized reading program for her, incorporating her love of rabbits into phonics lessons. It was exactly the kind of worthless work Patricia had once mocked, tailoring education to meet a child's specific needs and interests. The daily pickup routine became an unexpected window into Patricia's transformation. Each afternoon, she'd arrive early, watching through the classroom window as Lily participated in our end-of-day activities. I'd catch glimpses of her expression, wonder, regret, and something that looked remarkably like respect. She's different here, Patricia said one afternoon as we waited for Lily to gather her things. At her old school, she'd hide under tables, refuse to participate. But here she feels understood. I completed her thought. We celebrate differences in this classroom, Patricia. Every child has their own path to success. She turned to me then, her eyes glistening. I was wrong about you, Emma. About teaching. About everything. Before I could respond, Lily bounded over, proudly holding up a paper with carefully traced letters. Look, Grandma. I wrote rabbit all by myself. Patricia's face lit up with genuine joy, not the social facade I remember from family gatherings, but real, unfiltered happiness. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Should we show your mother? Mrs. Sullivan helped me, Lily announced, beaming. She says I'm smart in my own special way. I watched Patricia's face crumple slightly at those words. Words that challenge everything she once believed about worth and success. She pulled Lily close, meeting my eyes over her granddaughter's head with a look of profound gratitude. The real breakthrough came during our parent-teacher conference month. Sarah, Lily's mother, attended with Patricia. Sarah had her mother's elegant features but none of her former arrogance. She sat in my classroom, reviewing Lily's progress reports with tears in her eyes. I don't understand, Sarah said, looking at the graphs showing Lily's improvement. Her last school said she was hopeless, that she'd never read at grade level. But these results. Lily isn't hopeless, I stated firmly. She's gifted in ways that traditional classrooms don't always recognize. Yes, she struggles with reading, but her verbal comprehension is extraordinary. She has an incredible capacity for understanding complex patterns and remembering details. Patricia, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. Emma has a gift, she said, her voice thick with emotion. She sees potential where others see problems. I almost dropped my pen in shock. Patricia Morton, acknowledging my abilities, the same woman who'd called me worthless was now praising my work. Sarah looked between us, confused. You two know each other. Patricia straightened in her chair. Emma is David's wife, my daughter-in-law. Sarah's eyes widened. The one you said, she stopped abruptly, glancing at me apologetically. The one she said wasn't good enough for her son. I finished gently. Yes, that's me. Patricia flushed deep red. I was wrong, she declared, looking directly at me. So terribly wrong. You're not just good enough. You're extraordinary. What you've done for Lily, how you've helped her. I don't have words. The silence that followed was heavy with years of hurt and healing. Sarah looked at her mother with newfound understanding, perhaps seeing for the first time how Patricia's rigid views of success and worth had affected others. Lily talks about you constantly, Sarah said, breaking the tension. At home, it's always Mrs. Sullivan says, and Mrs. Sullivan showed me, you've given her something we couldn't, confidence. I pulled out some photos of Lily's recent achievements, her first independently written story about a family of rabbits, naturally, her presentation to the class about different types of clouds, her role as line leader during our daily transitions. Lily doesn't need to be fixed, I explained, spreading the photos on my desk. She needed to be understood and supported. Every child in this classroom has unique challenges and unique gifts. My job is to help them recognize both. Patricia picked up a photo of Lily reading to her classmates, Mr. Hoppy propped beside her. I remember that dinner, she said quietly. When you told us about your teaching plans, I was so focused on status, on what I thought success looked like. I couldn't see that true success is this, helping children believe in themselves. She looked up at me, her carefully maintained makeup slightly smudged from emotional tears. Can you ever forgive me, Emma? I thought about the hurt, the years of avoiding family gatherings, the way her words had sometimes echoed in my moments of doubt. But I also thought about growth, about change, about the power of admitting when you're wrong. I already have, I replied softly. Sometimes the best lessons come from our biggest mistakes. Sarah reached over and squeezed her mother's hand. Mom, maybe it's time to tell Emma about the foundation. Patricia dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Yes, perhaps it is. She turned to me with a hint of her old determination, but this time it wasn't aimed at tearing me down. I've been thinking about what you said, about every child deserving a chance to shine. I want to start a foundation, funding special education programs in schools that can't afford them. I sat back, stunned by this revelation. That's amazing, Patricia. And we'd like you to be on the board, Sarah added, to help us understand what these programs really need to succeed. As I looked at these two women, my former adversary and her daughter, I saw something I never expected. Allies in my mission to help children like Lily reach their full potential. I'd be honored, I said, and for the first time since that Thanksgiving dinner years ago, Patricia's smile reached her eyes. 3 years later, I stood at the podium of the Morton Educational Foundation's annual gala, looking out at a sea of faces. Patricia sat in the front row, Lily beside her, both beaming with pride. My husband David squeezed my hand before I began my speech. When I first became a special education teacher, someone told me I was worthless, that I was just babysitting children. That person is now one of our strongest advocates for inclusive education, proving that like our students, adults can learn, grow, and change their perspectives. Patricia's eyes glistened as she nodded slightly, acknowledging our shared journey. In the past 3 years, the foundation had funded special education programs in 12 schools, trained over 100 teachers, and changed countless lives. Lily, now 10, had blossomed beyond anyone's expectations. She was reading at grade level, excelling in science, and had even started a lunch club for students who felt different or left out. The girl who once hid under tables was now helping others find their place in the world. Success isn't a straight line, I continued, gesturing to the presentation screen behind me. It's not about fitting into someone else's definition of achievement. It's about understanding that every person has unique gifts to offer the world. The screen showed photos of our foundation's work, children discovering their talents, teachers implementing new methods, classrooms transformed into spaces where differences were celebrated, not stigmatized. Among them was a picture of Lily's first public speaking event, where she'd addressed the school board about the importance of understanding different learning styles. 3 years ago, we started with one classroom and one vision. Today, we're changing the face of special education across the state. But more importantly, we're changing mindsets. After the speech, during the reception, Patricia pulled me aside. She'd aged gracefully, her silver hair elegant, her posture still regal. But her eyes had softened over the years. I heard from the Collins School today, she said, excitement in her voice. They want to implement our program next semester. Can you believe we're expanding to our 13th school already? I smiled, remembering how this woman had once thought teaching was beneath her family's dignity. Now she spoke about educational programs with the same passion she'd once reserved for social status. Did you tell them about our new training module? I asked, watching her eyes light up. Of course. Sarah's already scheduled to conduct the first workshop. She's amazing with the teachers, you know. Must run in the family. She winked at me, including me in that family circle without hesitation. Sarah had surprised everyone by leaving her corporate job to become a special education advocate. She discovered her calling while helping with the foundation, saying she wanted to prevent other parents from feeling as lost as she once had. David joined us, wrapping an arm around my waist. Mom's already planning the next fundraiser, he told me. Something about a sensory-friendly gala for the kids this time. It's important for them to have their own celebration, Patricia insisted. These children work twice as hard to achieve their goals. They deserve recognition. Just then, Lily approached with her latest report card. Grandma, Mrs. Wilson said I got the highest score in science. And look, my reading comprehension is above grade level now. Patricia hugged her granddaughter, looking at me over Lily's head. Of course you did, sweetheart. You're extraordinary, just like your Aunt Emma always said. The way Patricia now said Aunt Emma, with pride and affection, still caught me off guard sometimes. The transformation in our relationship had been as remarkable as Lily's academic progress. Later that evening, as the gala wound down, I found myself in a quiet corner with Sarah. She was reviewing applications from schools hoping to join our program. Sometimes I can't believe how much has changed, she mused. Mom used to measure everything in terms of social status and traditional success. Now she's passionate about learning differences and inclusive education. You did that, Emma. You changed her whole worldview. I shook my head. Lily did that. She showed Patricia that success comes in many forms. But you showed her how to see it, Sarah insisted. That Thanksgiving dinner, Mom told me what she said to you. She carries that shame still, you know. Uses it to fuel her dedication to the foundation. I watched Patricia across the room, surrounded by teachers eager to discuss new teaching methods. She was in her element now, but not in the superficial way she'd once been at her country club gatherings. This was genuine passion, born from real understanding and growth. Your mother once told me I wasn't worthy of the Morton name, I told Sarah. Now she's helping me create a legacy that will carry that name forward in ways none of us imagined. The foundation's impact had extended far beyond our initial hopes. We'd started support groups for parents, mentoring programs for teachers, and even a summer camp where children with different learning styles could explore their interests without pressure. Lily had been instrumental in designing the camp programs, insisting that every activity be accessible to all participants. Everyone deserves to feel special, she declared during the planning meeting, sounding so much like a teacher she'd announced she wanted to become. David found me as the last guests were leaving. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Sullivan Morton?" he asked, using the name I finally felt worthy of claiming. "Almost," I said, watching Patricia say goodbye to the board members. "I just need a moment." I approached my mother-in-law, who turned to me with warm eyes. "Emma, dear, the speech was perfect. You always know exactly what to say." "I learned from the best," I replied. "You taught me that it's never too late to change your story." Patricia took my hands in hers. "Do you know what the ladies at the country club say now? They say, Patricia Morton. Oh, her daughter-in-law is that brilliant educator revolutionizing special education. They've forgotten all about our social status because they're too busy asking how to get their grandchildren into our programs." We both laughed, remembering how important those opinions had once been to her. "I was so wrong about you," she said, not for the first time, but with renewed conviction. "You weren't just becoming a teacher. You were becoming a force for change." As we walked out together, Lily skipping ahead with David, I thought about that Thanksgiving dinner years ago. The tears I'd shed, the pain of rejection, the determination to prove my worth. It had all led to this moment. Patricia must have been thinking the same thing. "You know," she said softly, "sometimes the most worthless things turn out to be priceless. You taught me that, Emma. You taught me so much." Looking at my family, David, Lily, Sarah, and yes, Patricia, I realized that success really does come in many forms. Sometimes it looks like a child reading their first word. Sometimes it looks like a reformed mother-in-law championing the very cause she once dismissed. And sometimes it looks like forgiveness, growth, and a family redefined by love and understanding. "We all did," I replied, squeezing her hand. "We all did."